some of the questions we didn't get to last week on 11? How come nobody answered your call, Jeff?
My call? What?
No, Jeff had, he put up the same event page that I had last week, basically, and nobody asked any questions.
Well, you know, there's different ways to post the event. You can post it as like a community event, or you can create a Hangout on Air as an event. And the advantage of the Hangout on Air is that the video, when they go to that event page, the video is right there. However, it doesn't automatically invite people.
So I screwed it up?
No,
Oh,
like you know, it's a philosophical Google Plus question. What's the best way to post an event?
How about if we just talk about that for half an hour? You said it's philosophical. That just sounded like mind-blowing. Let's talk about that. So what do you prefer me to do next time? By the way, thank you for doing. How come you did that? You just snuck in there with that right away.
Huh?
You did it. You did it so quickly last week. I didn't have a chance. You did it like.
Well, that's the other tricky thing is whoever creates the Hang On Air event has to be the streamer, and then they want to. So maybe let's do it the other way. Do it the way you did last time. Make it an EdTech Talk community event, and we'll just.
But then does that mess up your?
Nah. So we have questions coming at us via Twitter as well.
We do. Well, I don't go to the Twitter machine, so what are they?
Well, if you go to our live streaming page where the chat room is, we have our automatic,
automatic Twitter feed right there.
.com.
Like, for example, the question that was just tweeted, did anyone remind Dave Cormier that I have?
Yes, that's an excellent question.
I did, actually. I think we did on another platform. Did I tell you how much I love my MacBook Pro, by the way? I tell Tom every 15 minutes.
What do you love most about it?
It works. You turn it on, and it just works, which I was not experiencing with my other one. Plus, I got the, what is it, the new hard drive, you know, not the
SSD.
curmudgeon old kind. Yeah, the SSD kind, not the old curmudgeon that didn't like to do things. And so you just don't turn it off. I mean, it's just on. You lift the lid, and it's just on. It's unbelievable. And it just works. That's why I love it.
Okay.
Kind of hard to argue with that, right?
Hello, Carol.
Hi, Carol. I had to log in.
So questions I see from Beth. She posted, what are the top 5 tech/web 2.0 tools used every day? Feeling so overwhelmed with ever-changing tech and initiatives.
Okay.
John, you had a long exchange with someone I saw a week or so ago.
I did?
Yeah, you and, is it Ryan Collins?
Ryan, he was having trouble with the stream.
Um,
Oh, he was talking about Cozy, and I went to college with Ryan, and so he's talking about discussion forums from 1989 that ran on VAX servers and that kind of stuff. So he's also a big proponent of using IRC for everything.
Really?
Yeah, he loves IRC. And I generally, when he creates an he'll do a back channel in IRC for when he speaks, and then I'll log into those as him because there's no security on them, and then post a whole bunch of ridiculous things as him, and then leave. It's that kind of thing. Nothing serious.
This kind of
Carol loves your MacBook Pro.
So what other leftover questions do we have from last week?
Well, there was the one I thought was kind of interesting, and I'm not sure, we could maybe make it dovetail a little bit with what you're talking about, but how long will it take for educational technologists just to become educators? And I think that's kind of a little offshoot of what we're talking about, like mean, the
Look
stuff
who
we're
showed
talking.
up.
David. David.
David Cormier.
David
What's your
Cormier.
middle name? Friedrich. Tom's middle name is Frederick, so I call him Friedrich. So we're going to call you David Friedrich from here on out.
Yay.
Yay.
Just
Oh,
don't
this
call
is so
me.
fun.
Just don't call me late for dinner.
Wow, he's making dad jokes and everything. Hey, happy
He
belated
is.
Father's Day.
Yeah, happy
Yeah.
Father's Day to you as well.
So
We're coming up
we
with
haven't decided our
questions.
question yet.
I have
But
a
I kind
question.
of like that one. What's your question?
I don't know. I was just trying to play along.
Oh.
What was your question?
Well, we had one left over from last week. How long will it take for educational technologists to just become educators? So I think that's kind of, we haven't had when we call this Ed Tech Talk, why do we call it Ed Tech Talk?
Navel gazing. I like it.
Yeah,
Lots of
exactly.
opportunity for me to babble at random. I'm pro
Exactly.
this question.
And what's the other question, Jeff, that we had? Let me see. It was
Web 2.0 tools.
Top 5 tech Web 2.0 tools used every day.
and feeling so overwhelmed with ever-changing tech and initiatives.
I think that's the way to go with that one.
Mm-hmm.
How do you not be overwhelmed?
We could try to come up with a World Cup question.
Oh, how is it? Are we still down? We?
No, we're tied.
That's news to me.
The U.S. So what are we answering, questioning?
I think we're getting into the tech portion of our ed tech moniker.
Well, I mean, the tech ghetto is an interesting. I think there's something really interesting there. I think there's a lot of people that resonate with.
Hold this thought. Hold it. Let's start. Go.
No. I got a tweet and stuff. What's our question?
We're already 2 minutes late. Come on.
I mean, we need an intro, but you're okay. We have to.
All right, tech something, ed tech something related to ed tech.
Do you want me to read it? How he had a kind of a. Well, he said, how long will it take for educational technologists to become just educators?
That's great. What are we, 12?
Yes.
Hello and welcome, everyone, to I Have a Question, number 12. It is June 22nd. We have just passed into summer here in the Northern Hemisphere. It's still cold here in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, and my name is Dave Cormier.
And my name is Jennifer Madrill in Chicago, Illinois.
And this is John Schenker in Stowe, Ohio.
Jeff Lebo in Busan, Korea, wishing everyone a happy belated solstice.
Yes, the solstice webcast-a-thon continues.
Hooray!
Hurrah.
Yay for long days if you're at that tilt of the equator.
Yeah.
So our question this week.
It's harder and harder to have anything that is in any way representative to everybody.
You can't. You can't have the right take.
The guys on the equator, not such a big deal for them.
No.
Yep.
Yeah. It just goes round and round and round. So our question today. Oh, sorry, John. Go ahead.
Go on. That's all right. Go ahead.
Our question.
What's our question, Dave?
The question today, thanks, John. That was a wonderful prompt. Is when are educational technologists just going to become educators? Corollary to that is, should they? I don't know. What do you think, Jennifer? You have like a doctor in this whole thing. Tell us all about it.
I just think and as Dave said when we were talking in the pre-show about little navel gazing, I don't think that's always a bad thing. But we throw these words around all the time, like educational technologists and instructional designers and all these funny words. And at the end of the day, most of us just all fall under a blanket of educators. And so I just think it's interesting that what we're talking about on this webcast and our prior ones was about this ed tech aspect and really emphasizing the tech as being our niche. And based on the questions we're getting all the time, we're getting just your average everyday Joe educator now interested in these technology issues because it's just a part of everybody's job. And so I just think that whole educational technologist name and probably function could probably go away one day, and it will not necessarily be a subset other than those that are actually dealing with, getting people like John, getting people set up on computers and laptops and things like that. But as far as people integrating technology as part of their educational practice, I don't know if it necessarily needs to be a separate discipline. And
I
that's
think it
my
has gone
soapbox.
that way to a
I don't
large
know if
extent. We've
it
sort
has,
of
but
redefined it. Where it was a special conversation to talk about using email instead of printing out, memos and sending them in interschool mail to people. And it was a separate, whole separate thing that we're going to do shared calendars now instead of, the secretary keeping track of what is happening in a school building all the time, everywhere. Those kinds of things where we're using technology as part of the operation of a school and part of the management of instruction has really become largely invisible in the sense that we don't have separate plans for them. We don't have separate um, conversations about them. We just do it. And so, yes, we still have educational technologists, and we still do have technology plans, and we still work with technology in education. But the things that we're doing, I think, are always trying to push the envelope and to get people to be more innovative and embrace technology in new ways. And a lot of the things that we were talking about 10 years ago are things that just everybody takes for granted now.
So we both need them and don't need them. Got it.
Can we define them, like what is an educational technologist? Because to a certain extent, like, do you still need a plumber? If a pipe bursts, do you just need someone who cares about home well-being or
Yeah, so you do. Like when, if you have a one-to-one program and the computer is absolutely essential to learning in the classroom, then when the computer breaks, you have to have somebody to fix it. That's not, I don't think, what we're talking about. You need to have people available to provide support, and some of that support could be, just hardware and software support that is happening in the schools, and that's an element of technology use, but I don't think that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about how does that impact and change and affect instruction.
I want to take on Jeff's metaphor.
Okay.
The difference is we no longer have to have people coming into our room to take out the chamber pots. That's not what counts as a plumber anymore. Mostly the plumbing works on its own.
We still need people to lay out the architecture and the piping.
Yeah, once.
When things are built.
Once. And a lot of those things are bought from other people and are already in existence when you arrive. So when I bought this house, I didn't replumb it. I inherited the plumbing, and there's one place where I looked at it and I went, you know what, the plumbing over here is really dumb. I should get somebody who knows what they're doing to come in and fix it. But I don't see that guy every day. And I think that that's sort of the difference that John's talking about, is that they're not required in that day-to-day kind of way. I mean, I installed a Pocket Edition Minecraft server today on my computer for my son. It took me 35 seconds to find where to download where to curl the link from, and then it took me a minute and a half to install it so that it was up and running and I could log into it. The difference between what it was like even 6 or 7 years ago to download something that was a server and install it is just, it's unbelievable. Right?
Who here considers educational technologists as part of their job description? John.
Well, and it's a little different. Every context has a little different word. So if you look at a job description for an instructional designer, sometimes it's that they know how to use Captivate. So it's very much, what technology can you use to input data that we're going to transmit information to others? So, and they sometimes is called an educational technologist, because they're, so everybody in each discipline kind of borrows the word a little bit. So I think it depends a little bit.
I think I'll take half of my not hand back and put up half a hand like this. My day job, not so much, but my professional life, I would say that I still do kind of think of myself that way. And the way that I just tested myself was, if there was a conversation happening in a room, and some people were like, you know what, we should totally get those kids to do this stuff online. And if they were mumbling about it, I would feel perfectly comfortable taking like an expert position to talk to them about it. And I wouldn't if they were just talking about teaching in exactly the same way. I still might, but I think of myself as being more educational technology than just education, in terms of inside of a group of educators. Do you know what I mean? I think of that. I think there's exceptionality. Like I've done more work on the on the technology side than I've done in education generally.
So within the group of educators, you're the tech guy, but within the group
I believe
of
he called himself
technology
expert.
people, you're the education guy.
That's right. That's right. That's kind of how I see myself. What did you say,
So
Jeff?
it
I didn't
depends
quite
on
I,
hear
I
you.
believe you just called yourself an expert.
I said take up the expert position. I can lie my way into that position.
pretend
The
to be the
expert
expert. That's what Dave does
position.
best. David, I'm
Um,
sorry, David.
Oh,
David
that's right. It's
Friedrich.
David now. That's right.
I just put a link in the chat room just to kind of tie into what I was saying. So when I go to my instructional designers academic conference a couple times a year, it's AECT, which is the Association for Educational Communications and Technology. But most of the people would be pretty offended, actually, if you just lump them into the bucket of people who learn, like I said, learn how to use Captivate and learn how to throw up, a screen, basically a glorified PowerPoint, and then they've now created instruction for you. And if you go to job descriptions, sometimes that's what people are actually looking for. Like, take my hard copy, whatever, and throw it up on the internet by using, hitting the next button,
Internet
screen after
tools.
screen. Internet tools. And so we look more at we consider even though our label is Educational Communications and Technology Association, we consider ourselves educators and kind of falling under the blanket of instructional designers. So even within our own organization, we use words that we reject as part of what we do. So that probably adds to the confusion. But Jeff, I don't know. What do you call yourself? Because you founded EdTech Talk, but I don't know if you consider yourself an educational technologist, do you?
I definitely think lines are blurring. So as a teacher, I teach computer-assisted language learning, and that's certainly technology-oriented, but I'm the educator bringing technology into the subject matter. As a online community guy, we seem to talk a lot about technology. Um, um, I went back to find the question: what will it take for educational technologists to just become educators? And you could reverse it, and I think educators are going to involve technology, and technology people involve education. So I just see a lot of blurriness.
Do you think the changing nature of technology makes this a necessary role? I mean, if you go back to the plumbing analogy, every generation or so we have a change in plumbing technologies, so that we're using PEX now instead of using copper, or we're not doing the jamming the oakum into to fit together drain pipes that are made out of cast iron anymore. So like every 30, 40 years we have a change there, whereas in our world, no, I don't want to say everything is changing, but we're having huge strides in how we use technology outside of education, on like a yearly basis or on every few years. So does that mean that we need to have people in that role trying to navigate that technology role through the lens of education and trying to find the best ways to incorporate and use those technologies to further education?
Let me ask the question a different way. Is there anything different between an educational technologist and a librarian in terms of the role they play vis-a-vis education?
A librarian traditionally has been the curator of instructional content. So what are the things that help our students learn the best? And in a knowledge world where you're imparting knowledge, it was about selecting books and journals and whatever you're going to use beyond what's available in the classroom. I think that largely that is a similar kind of role in technology, although you are broadening the horizons quite a bit.
Are you guys reading? Carol's got some great comments, and by using these labels, we're creating these silos of positions. And so she was saying that maybe if we kind of go away from this, everybody just takes responsibility for doing all the things that are necessary as part of your job as an educator. So it may be kind of being part-time librarian, part-time educational technologist, like whatever you need to do to get the job done, it's just becoming kind of under your umbrella to do it rather than calling on a silo.
Well, John, how has your job evolved in the last 10 years, and how do you think it will evolve in the foreseeable future?
Um, I think over the last 10 years, we have uh, the big thing that has made a difference for us is just the saturation of technology and the mobility of it. So, I mean, we're in a place where 3 years ago we had 1,800 computers in the school district, and we've been buying 1,000 a year since then. And that kind of growth is has pushed me into managing hardware, much more than I was in the decade before that. We need a wireless network that can handle every kid having two devices. We need it to build our infrastructure out. We need to build support structures so that we can maintain this stuff. So it's been, over the last few years, really hardware and network and tech intensive. And that's really come at the expense of professional development and instructional integration and those kinds of things. Um, as we move forward, we've been able to put some things into place to get additional resources on the tech side. That's really kind of pushing me in the direction of, now that we have this stuff, how are we using it effectively? And I realize that that's backwards, but that's the direction that we've headed.
And that's
Is we buy
part of
this
your
stuff
job too.
first
You're the
and then
guy for the
figure it out.
district who has to
I,
kind of figure out how to use it effectively.
um, I am. It's purchased frequently without my input. And so it's stuff that's sort of thrown out there that, okay, we have all of this stuff. And so I've been kind of picking up much of the role of, or trying to pick up much of the role of, now that we have it, how can we better use it, beyond just what it was purchased for, which is largely programmed instruction.
So,
I
John,
think
would
there's
you
a
say? Oh, go ahead.
no, you started first.
Well, I just have a question, John. So as you're pushing out more of the hardware, kind of like as the
Mhm.
internet grew, people just became their own little web developers, and they, didn't rely on others. Kind
Yeah.
of what you were making that argument before. Are you finding the same things true? If you actually have the ability now at your fingertips to do some of this tech integration and find new ways to use technology to enhance your instructional practices and educational practices, is that job just, as kind of tying into what Carol was saying, it's just becoming what educators do. They use the technology at their disposal, and it's just part of
I
their.
think so. I think so. And I think we're moving in that direction, but I also think that many of our educators are not sold on the idea that we still have a lot of teachers who love worksheets, and they see technology. If you look at the SAMR model, they're into substitution, right? It's, oh, okay, instead of me getting out worksheet, we're going to do the worksheet together on a smartboard, and or we're going to use a flipped classroom model, but the flipped classroom model essentially means you're going to watch a video and then do a worksheet. So really getting them to think beyond, how do just using the technology to do the same things in the same ways that we've always done, and looking at what is it that the technology allows you to do with students that you can't do without it. And that's really the struggle for us.
So that's like wrapping around your professional development comment, then, right? It's
Right,
like
right.
find best practices to be able to do some of that. Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
We have a
Well,
lot of
that's okay.
cultural tradition.
I think the elephant in the room here is, in terms of the question that we've got, like, how do we make the change from educational technology to just education, is the driving forces that are behind the kind of work that we're doing. So John's talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars being spent on random computers, or computers that don't necessarily mesh with a given network configuration, that were not planned ahead, but were the result of probably political decisions. And likely political decisions that were made by people who were told, spend it now or don't get it. And I'm not blaming the people who are making the political decisions. It's just that a lot of the decisions that get made around technology, because the dollar figure is so high, get made at a higher level often than you would normally find the specific skill set that could give you the right kind of advice. So there's always this weird kind of thing that happens where technological change gets imposed, where people get hired, or decisions for positions get made based on, oh, we need to have some technology stuff, so let's get some technology people to get our education technologyized. And I think that
Yeah.
until we have a change in that kind of, in the leadership model that's around educational technology, I think we're going to see educational technologists for an awfully long time, because consistently over the last 10 or 15 years, I've seen people, 10 or 15, is that fair? 10 anyway. I've seen people at organizations say things like, we're going to start doing this stuff, so let's hire a bunch of those people. But it's not, they're not trying to change their educators to become better better with technology.
Yeah, as long as you're hiring other people to do that, then the people that you have are not going to. The school that I used to work at, and I left there 15 years ago, I taught a middle school computer applications class, and it was essentially giving kids some exposure to the internet and showing them office productivity tools and that kind of stuff. And a year after I left, they discontinued that course and said, we're not going to teach our middle school kids computer applications anymore. And their justification for that was, if we do it here, then no one else will embrace those skills in their regular classrooms, because they'll just say, oh, that's the job of the computer teacher to handle that stuff. So by eliminating the class, it became a need that everyone had to embrace. And I don't know how that worked out for them in terms of where those students went and what kind of skills they had, or whether they were able to assess them afterwards. But there's something to be said for, if this isn't one person's responsibility, it becomes everyone's responsibility. And
but isn't there a micro and macro level? Aren't there like certain literacies that we want individual educators to have so that they can use the hardware? But isn't there some kind of macro planning that has to go on for a system or a school? And who does that? Or is it just the regular curriculum designers who just would naturally integrate technology as they would whatever else?
I agree with you. What I'm suggesting is that the people who make decisions don't understand the distinction you just made. And if they did, we would be, well, I mean, some of them do and some of them don't, and whatever. It just, there's so many dollars around technology decisions that they end up being weird a lot of the time. I can totally see a day where the technology in the way you describe it gets swallowed up by the facilities group inside of organizations, that the fiber optic cable running and the keeping enough internet connection-y, wireless has got to get easy soon. Like, we've been working on it for a long time. It's got to get better.
Well, yeah, we could get into wireless for an hour, but the industry does not want it to be simple.
Yeah.
So someone's listening to this podcast and they're thinking, "Wow, those guys are so smart. They make so much sense. I wanna do what they're talking about. We're gonna hire them. And
as educational technologists,
we're gonna do whatever they tell us to do. What's the plan?"
You first, Jen.
Well, I'm going back to, I was trying to figure out a way to blend back in our second part B of our question was, and I hope I don't butcher her name, but Beth Ladolf, I believe, and she's a teacher, I'm assuming, and saying what are our top 5 tech Web 2.0 tools used every day, feeling so overwhelmed and ever-changing, with ever-changing tech and initiatives. And so, I didn't even remember what Jeff's question was, but
you're hired, you got a job.
I've got a job.
There.
What am I doing? So,
the three of us decided the first thing we're going to do is talk to Jen.
So my job, if I feel the most important thing we need to do is work with teachers to say, stop freaking out. A tool is a tool, and let's think about what you need to do as an educator. This is your profession. You know how to teach students, and so what do you need to do? Like, start with that question. What are you trying to get them to do that you're otherwise not over? And let's use the technology as a tool for us, rather than thinking I need to like freak out and learn every Web 2.0 tool that's coming out. Kind of like we did in EdTech Weekly. I mean, we got excited about it, but I don't think all of us each week were thinking, oh my gosh, I'm a failure as an educator if I don't find a way to incorporate every tool that comes across my desk. So that's what I would do, Jeff. I think I'm answering your question, Jeff. I would be much less worried about getting everybody their hands on all the different software and whatever, and really focus in on their jobs as educators.
Jen's in charge of the Don't Freak Out Squad.
What
else are we going to do?
Yeah.
I'll take it next, and we'll let John, who actually knows this stuff, to answer last maybe. I was actually asked this question recently by somebody who was right next to me inside of our talk here. He's almost touching my ear. And my advice is always the same. Go after a wedge issue and do it really, really, really well. Because there is nothing like showing how this stuff is useful and saves people time and makes their lives better, to have people go, What do you got?
Can you give us an
And
example?
well, one of the ones that I'm doing at UPEI is I'm going after transitions into the university. Nobody's in charge of it now. Everybody knows it's a problem. We don't have enough money to do it properly in a way that we used to do things. So we cannot take 1,000 people, fly them in 2 months early, and give them all the things they need to help transition from high school to university. It's just not possible for a variety of reasons. Whereas I can use the technology to reach out to those people. Right now I'm exploring the possibility, it's going to sound weird. I'm working with an automated marketing company to try to um, profile the students coming in and then adjust the help community support materials that they get accordingly so that I can find the ones who are the most at risk
Are you
and
becoming a
focus more
spam
resources on
consultant?
them. A what?
Spam consultant?
There are people who are coming to the university, but yes, you
Okay.
could call it a spam consultant. They're already coming.
Okay.
But that's an issue that nobody at the university currently owns. No one hates me for trying to fix it, and I'm not going on anybody's turf. It doesn't become a turf war. It doesn't become an issue of ownership. Nobody wanted it in the first place. So my advice is pick a couple of things, even just one thing, that has always bothered people that no one owns, that the technology is particularly well suited to fix, so that you can have that exemplar of success that you can use to map the other things to. And then when people start coming to you and going, but that person's job is much easier now. I want my job to be much easier now. Then you're off to the races, because then you're starting from the right end of the conversation. Because right now we've got 20 years of, no offense, really shitty technology projects have been rolled out for years and years and years and years. And a lot of people, particularly the smarter ones, are very wary of technology projects now, and rightly so. There have been a lot of dumb things done.
Which I think ties
And
back to our question, the part B question was, I'm feeling so overwhelmed with the ever-changing tech and initiatives for the sake of doing an initiative with no need or problem or opportunity being pursued. Just let
absolutely.
Well, and I
just
think one of
roll
our
out.
problems is our lack of ability to define what it is we're trying to do. And I'm thinking we have a STEM coordinator in our school district, and we have four completely different, distinctive definitions of what that person is supposed to be doing. And the school board and the administration have two of those, and the parent group has a third, and the teachers have a fourth. And so it's no wonder that she's not getting a lot done, because she has four different groups of people, several of whom, one of which she has to work with and three of which she has to answer to, all telling her completely different things about what it is they mean by STEM. And I think that we have that problem across the board in a lot of different areas. One of the things in our
Learning.
strategic plan is we're going to add a data warehouse, and I keep asking the question of, what do you mean by data warehouse? And that's as far as the conversation has gone, is we need a data warehouse and we know it's going to cost X dollars. And trying to get them to agree on what it is that we're trying to solve, what is the problem that we're trying to fix, what is the goal, how are we going to know that we've measured the goal, and get some consensus on what it is we're trying to do. It's a really basic thing, and it's comical to talk about it, but it's not quite so comical to live it. Just trying to get people on the same page about what we're doing or trying to accomplish would be a great first step.
Yeah, that was my thinking too. It's kind of, a needs analysis. And when you talk about the strategic plan, what role did an educational technologist or you play in that? And it seems to me that you've got to, whatever happens is happening in the context of curriculum requirements and standardized testing and everything else. And like, if
Right.
you're developing this great plan with all these things that doesn't keep everybody happy as things currently are, well, or are and
Well,
will
and,
be,
and and I ended up writing my own plan,
how'd that
because
work out?
I knew that I would be judged based on the success of the technology initiative. So I wrote a plan that entirely focuses on things within my sphere of control. So these are things that I can actually do something about given my current role. And yeah, that's going really well, but
I'm just
it's
saying that's not the way
disconnected
those
from
plans are
everything else.
supposed to be written.
Yeah, I
That
know.
that sounds like a practical plan that has achievable goals in it, and I don't approve.
I I understand, Dave.
And something within his control that he's working on. It's great.
Well, but the technology plan doesn't address
So Jeff,
professional development.
I don't know if
Professional development isn't part of my job.
You're saying.
So, go ahead, Jen.
John,
What?
Jen would like to talk over you now.
Go ahead, Jen.
No, I was just going to say,
You talk while I talk.
I would like to talk over. I'd like to talk over you now. Sorry. I want to know if we satisfied Jeff, because Jeff seemed like he was the one concerned.
Well, you know, the test is how many calls we get this week from potential clients. We are available at edtechtalk.com.
555-1234.
Consulting needs.
Just leave a my chingo comment.
Voice thread? Voice thread.
Voice thread. Perfect. Voice thread. Whatever. Are we done?
I got a call this week from someone asking if I would recommend Voice Thread for their project. I chuckled.
All right, I believe this is has been IHAQ 12. We'll be back next week with IHAQ 13 at our regular time, which is 11:59 UTC.
Which starts right now.
Right. Please tweet your questions, post them wherever. Thanks for the questions we had.
Yeah.
It's always nice to start my Monday morning with some deep thinking.
Cool.
Oh, that's right. Monday morning for Tuesday.
Okay,
Okay, that's all for now, everyone.
answering the questions. That's great.
See you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Carol.